Greetings, friends and future friends. This video I call Studio Shop Videos. Now, if you're like me, and you don't have a lot of money to pay somebody to come in and fix and repair things in your studio, you got to do it yourself. So I'm going to show you how you can fix and repair and adjust things in your studio. That way you can get back to work creating, whether it be videos or music or whatever you're a creator of. So let's go see if we can find something to fix. Now, the first thing we're going to do in this FrankenStein guitar build is replace the black hardware with the chrome hardware. In the original FrankenStein, it had chrome hardware. The one I bought to start with had the black hardware, so we're going to change it out. We're even going to change out the black locking nut with the chrome locking nut. And also on this Floyd Rose, basically they're a Floyd Rose special, but on this one we have the drop D tuning knob on it, so we can drop down the D. Now, we already replaced the black tuners with the nickel tuners. These are standard Fender tuners, and then what we did is take a little bit of emery cloth to them, buff them up a little bit, and add some vinegar to give them that aged look. And they really turned out really nice. We also did the washers up on top to give it more of an aged look. They really turned out really swell. So before we can install the tremolo unit, we have to install the locking nut. And it's a pretty easy process to do. First, let's remove the blocks from the locking nut. Now we can install the locking nut. Now, on the Floyd Rose systems, there's two ways to mount this locking nut. One, there's a long bolt that goes through, and some guitars, like the Ibanez, that I play a lot of, have a bolt that goes through. So in other words, this bolt goes through the neck and you come up from the bottom. And on this guitar, the Jackson, you can use wood screws to put down in here and lock this nut in place. Now remember, the strings are going to hold this thing down, and when it's locked into place, it's pretty much being held down by the strings. There's not much tension needed to hold this locking nut in place. So we're going to take the screws, put down through here, put one down through here, take another one over here, and put them down inside that locking nut and make sure it's in place. You can see how the locking nut has countersunk slots in it, so that you can take these screws and bring them right in there and they're flush. Also, you want to make sure that the taper of the locking nut, this is the high part and this is the low part for the strings to come across. Okay, let's put this on here tight. Look like they're on there good. Okay, good. Now we can install the blocks. Bring the block back in here. Get it started. There we go. Get the other block. Get it started. And then the final block. Put it in place. And now we have the locking nut put in place, ready to go. So now let's go to the other end of the guitar and install this tremolo unit. Now, before we install the tremolo unit, we have to remove the bridge pins. So we'll unscrew these things because they are with black hardware and they are pretty long. Now that we have the black hardware bridge pins removed, we can now install the chrome ones. And being this is a Floyd Rose replacing a Floyd Rose, the thread patterns are the same, so the chrome bridge pins, they fit right in there perfectly. And away they slide in. And put that one down a little bit too. Now that we have the bridge pins installed, we can now install the tremolo. And all we got to do, slide it down into the slot, and there you go. It's now in place. Now what we have to do is flip the guitar over and connect the springs. So now we have the guitar flipped over, and we're going to install the springs. Now, before I install the springs, what you can do is take these screws and back them out a little bit. Because with this new tremolo, we're going to have to set everything up, so we're going to have to readjust this anyhow. But if we back these screws out, making sure that they're out far enough to make it easy to install the spring, but yet not out far enough where that thing will pull out when we connect the spring. So we'll take and put the spring, put it in the hole, spring here and put it in a hole, put it on the lock, and now we'll tighten the screws. And we'll tighten this screw. Put a little tension on the string. Put a little tension on that spring. Now we have tension on the spring. Everything looks like it's locked in place. Now let's flip it over and see how it looks. Now we have the guitar turned over, and the first thing we want to make sure of is to make sure that these knife edges are in the slots of the bridge pins. And it looks really good. And I can even tell there's a lot of tension on that spring. Looks good. So now the last thing to do is put strings on it. Okay, the next thing is to put some strings on this thing. Now, first thing I want to do is install the tremolo bar, or the whammy bar as people call it. Get down in the slot, install that. And what I've done over the years is I have a little piece of foam rubber. I like to push down on a tremolo and put it underneath there. That gives me easier access to put the strings in. All right, let's put strings on this guitar. Now what you got to do is take and cut the barrel off to fit in a Floyd Rose. We'll take and cut the barrel off and open up the slot for the string and slide it down into that slot. Up a little bit, and there we go. Get it right in there. There we go. It's right in place. Make sure it's in place and snug it up a little bit. And then we put a little bit of torque on it. Good deal. Now we got the E string in place. Now we go, do the same thing again. Cut the barrel off. Open up the slot for the string to go down into. Slide it down into that Floyd Rose. Make sure it's down all the way. And tighten it up. Get it nice and tight. Not too tight to strip the bolt. Just tight enough to hold that string. Now we go to the next string. Do the same thing. Now that we have strings on this guitar, now we have to set it up. Now when you have a guitar that you've been playing and you put new strings on it, it's not that big a deal because the setup is the same. You're just putting new strings on it. But now that we've replaced the bridge and done some other things to this guitar, we now have to set it up. So first I take these knobs on the Floyd Rose and I bring them to 0. Then what I do is I bring them in 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And that's like an 8th turn. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now, the adjustment on here, on these knobs on the Floyd Rose, are kind of in the halfway point. Now let's tune it up and see if we can get it close. Let's plug it in. Turn our tuner on and see what we have. Now we'll be tuning these guitars down to half steps. So this is actually a D. Now the first thing I can see is that the space of the Floyd Rose is picking up too much. So what we have to do is flip it over on the other side and adjust the screws. So now let's adjust these spring screws here and tighten this up a little bit. I can already see that this is way too loose, or the tension is not great enough. Let me pick up and we can actually see that the Floyd Rose has still got to come back a good ways. That's looking pretty good. Let's flip it over and see what we got. During the setup, I heard a lot of spring noise, and I guess that this setup in this guitar was really not its natural setup. Somebody must have put a Floyd Rose in this thing and thought it was going to work and didn't follow through. So what we had to do is we had to add a third spring, and then what we had to do is go down in the shop. And I didn't want to take the time to go down and set the cameras up and then come back for just a little bit. But what I had to do was take my Dremel tool and grind out a slot for the spring on this side, and also route out a slot on this side for the spring. Then I also noticed that when the tremolo bar went that way, it was riding on the heel of the guitar right in here. So I took and I routed that out. So this little detour in our setup has got us into a great setup now, because now those springs aren't as noisy as they would be if we had just dropped this tremolo in here and set it up and started to play it. It would have made a lot of noise, and now it's not going to. So now I think we have the setup just where we want it. I'm looking down here and it's nice and straight. This is going straight to the strings, and we're tuned down. I'm tuning down to D, so there's D. There's G. There's C. There's F. There's A. And there's D. Now let's see if the tremolo bar works. We'll install it. Works excellent. Everything's working, and if you listen, you hear string noise, but you don't hear those springs rattling. Sounds good. So I think today's project, installing the tremolo in the FrankenStein guitar today, was a great success. So I hope this video showed you that you can fix and repair these things yourself. That way you don't have to have someone else come in and do it. Also, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. You help us grow the channel. That way we can fix more stuff. So take care, my friends, and thanks for watching.